Yes, Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. I'm Zuraini Juso from UiTM Cawangan Terengganu, and I will be your moderator for our today webinar. On behalf of the organizer, I would like to extend my very warm welcome to all of you. So before we start our webinar, so let me remind you a few things. The first one is about the flow of our webinar today. Okay, so we will start with the speech, okay, the kick-off speech. And then the second one is the opening speech, and will be followed by the sharing by our speaker. And we will have the QA session, okay, after the sharing, okay. And if you have the question, okay, the participant, you are allowed to write your question or maybe your comment, okay, in the chat box, okay. And we will try, the question will be addressed by the speaker, okay, during the QA session. Okay, and the last one is the attendance, attendance and also the certificate, okay. So the organizer will put the link for the attendance and the certificate, okay, in the chat box, before the event end, at least half an hour before the event ends. So please make sure, all participant, you need to fill out, okay, two links. The first link is on the attendance, and the second link is for the e-certificate. Okay. Okay, shall we start?
Yes, please, Ms. Moderator.
Okay, again, Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and it is with privilege to acknowledge our speaker, Captain Muhammad Fairuz bin Hassan from 23rd Frigate Squadron Leader and Commanding Officer of KD Liku. Let me also acknowledge our highly respected Professor Surveyor Dr. Zulkifli bin Abdul Latif, Director of the Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainable Development UiTM, Lieutenant Colonel Associate Professor Zaid bin Ngah, Timbalan Komandan PALAPES UiTM, Captain Prof Town Planner Dr. Jamalul Laili Abdullah, Commanding Officer KD Sri Klang, all committee members and our dear participants. Again, welcome to PALAPES Webinar Series 4 with the themes of Navy Breaking the Wave. The objective of this webinar are to provide insight and understanding of the main topics regarding maritime strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, to kick off this webinar, I would like to invite Captain Prof Town Planner Dr. Jamalul Laili Abdullah, Commanding Officer KD Sri Klang, to deliver a speech. Please welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, our moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will not take long because I think the welcoming speech will be by Prof Zul, but I just like to personally welcome Captain Muhammad Fairuz, TLDM. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. So we are very grateful and we are really honored to have you to share your experience, your knowledge, your skills with all of us today. And on behalf of KD Sri Klang, once again, thank you very much for joining our webinar today. And we warmly welcome you for today's event. So we hope all of us will get as much knowledge as possible from somebody who's out there really in the field. So macam saya ni tak ni lah apa ni dia apa in the reserve ni I don't have as much knowledge as you do, so I'm looking at the opportunity really to listen to all the things that I'm going to share with us. So once again, thank you very much for agreeing to share your experience with us. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, sir. At this point, to formally open our webinar, I would like to give this virtual floor to Professor Surveyor Dr. Zulkifli bin Abdul Latif, Director of the Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainable Development, to give a welcome speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Chairman. Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Jamalul Laili, my boss, and Kepala Komandan Markas PALAPES, Lieutenant Colonel Haji Zaid Benga, and our distinguished speaker today, Captain Muhammad Fairuz bin Hassan, from 23rd Brigade Squadron Leader and Commanding Officer of KD LITU. Welcome to our webinar. This webinar is a collaboration with Markas PALAPES UiTM, KD Sri Klang, and the Institute for Biodiversity Sustainable Development. I would like to invite all participants today to our Commanding Future Values, PALAPES Webinar Series 2. Basically focus on the total defense concept and social capital development. So we hope with our sharing today from Captain Fairuz, we can have better knowledge, especially in the Royal Malaysia Navy, and also myself, I have very little knowledge in Navy, and I hope I can learn a lot, and also we can address this to the Sustainable Development Goals, which is we already put up in the poster. We hope we can tailor the content today to SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institution, and also SDG 17, partnership for the goal. So we hope we can continue our partnership with PALAPES UiTM and also KDC Klang, inshallah. So I would like to welcome our speaker today, and we hope we can have a good session today. Then thank you very much to all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for the warm welcoming speech. It's now time for our sharing sessions. So before the sharing begins, allow me to introduce our speaker. Okay, Captain Muhammad Fairuz was graduate from University Technology of Malaysia with bachelor degree in nautical science and master in military and defense studies from Australian National University. He also completed Australian Command and Staff course, Canberra, Australia in 2014. And he joined the Royal Malaysian Navy on 21st May 2000 and was commissioned as lieutenant on the 7th June 2004. He was promoted to the captain in October 2020. On the courses, okay, Captain Fairuz has attended several courses throughout his career. He attended Basic Electronic Warfare course in 2006, Principal Warfare Officer course in 2007, and International Principal Warfare Officer course in Collingwood, United Kingdom in 2008. He also attended various seminars representing the Navy under the Regional Maritime Security Practitioner course and ASEAN Maritime Information Sharing Exercise in Singapore in 2011 and 2012. He represented Malaysia in Western Pacific Naval Symposium, Japan Naval War College in 2015, and Manpower Personnel Educations and Training course in Florida, United States in 2017. These various of experience in maritime warfare, it is great to have Captain Muhammad Fairuz with us today. And now, I'm glad to welcome Captain Muhammad Fairuz bin Hassan from 23rd Frigate Squadron Leader and Commanding Officer of KDLQ, who will share with us with the topic Navy Breaking the Wave. Please welcome, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, great. I'm really sorry about the technical glitch that we faced during the startup of this webinar. I'm greatly apologize for the technical glitch. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Moderator and Ms. Raini Jusso for the introductions. I really appreciate that. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Markas PALAPES and also KD Sri Klang, especially for Captain Professor Jamulul Lail. I've had met him before a few times, and he no stranger for me. And I also like to extend my sincere remarks to Professor Zulkifli for the remarks. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm looking forward more of this webinar in the future, because in this webinar where the maritime practitioner and the academician met for us to grow, to improve, to develop, and especially to make especially the Navy, the Armed Forces, as a thinking organizations to adapt with the changing environment that we have today. And I would also like to extend my sincere remarks to Institute of Biodiversity and Sustainability Development for the co-host of this webinar. And I would like to make everybody understand that I'm using the topics of Navy breaking the waves as a metaphor to bring everyone's that the breaking the wave is what the ships normally do at sea. Like the pictures that shows on the slides, it shows that every times when ship navigate from point A to point B or to specific home port or destinations, we have cut through waters. Somehow the sea is calm, somehow the sea is rough. So it shows that the nature that we face as a human, as organization, that we may face some easy times, some difficult times. However, we have to go through the problems to make sure that we achieve what we need. Same goes to the Navy. There will be a times for us to adapt with the requirement, regardless internally or externally, to make sure that the organization stay relevant and credible to support the mandate given by the peoples and the governments. And in order to make sense the today webinars where we talks about the commanding future values, focusing on total defense and capital developments, I'm really interested to relate that the organizations is always have the peoples managing, developing, and driving. So even there will be artificial intelligence in the organizations, we still need men behind the machines. That's I would like to stress. All about how good the organization is all about human capital, and it's all about men. When we talk about competency, when we talk about capability, it's always about people who is driving and developing the organizations. And I believe I have give some metaphor with regards to the topic that I'm given this afternoon. And this is the scope of my presentations. I will give some short overview to setting the scenes of my presentation this afternoon. And I will talk mainly about these three things. the Malaysia as a maritime nation, the maritime strategy, as I wrote a paper about a way ahead for the Malaysian Armed Forces, and the RMN, how to raise, train, and sustain in order to support the strategy given to the Royal Malaysian Navy as one of the forearm in the Malaysian Armed Forces. And the so what or the key takeaways that I believe what the audience need this afternoon. So what can we done? What can we do? Is it too great to be done, or is it within our means? That's I always stress to my officers on board ships. We have to do something within our means to make sure we are someone who bring the ripple effect to the organization. So I believe this is one of the important parts during by the end of this presentation. And I wish by end of my presentation there will be some Q&As and discussion for me to learn something new, and then for us, everybody here, to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So in setting the scenes, I would like to everybody to understand that the Malaysian is a unique country where geographical locations there where we are today, we are historically and currently located in the area where now being the spotlight of the maritime securities concerns globally. So I will talk more in length about what may happen in the past, what is happened currently. I believe the AUKUS discussion where the Australian, UK and US deals recently have caused big fuss in the media, in the social media, and among the maritime practitioners and also the academician. That's interesting. And I would like to stress that the needs of the strategy, the right strategy for the Malaysian Armed Forces, the countries, okay, and for us, okay, as a whole of government effort to make sure that the Malaysia can adapt with the geostrategic environment, and at the same time we need to develop ourselves as a navy to maintain and retain the fighting capability as a deterrent for the possible adversaries. And at last, the most important part is the human capital development, as I always mentioned in the beginning, the man behind the machine. Okay, we go to the first topics, okay, in the Navy breaking the wave this afternoon. First, I believe some of us have seen this slide. Some of us have come across these pictures. It is maybe interesting drawings, but this is what being mentioned by the Tom Pius in the Summa Oriental. In his writings, okay, he mentioned that whoever Lord of Malacca has his hand on the throat of Venice. It has been mentioned in the 16th century. So historically, that our peninsula or Malaysia in general, we are the center of the region, and the geostrategic location have made us naturally strategic for trades. At that time, trades means vital, trades means important to all countries, okay? And all trades have to transit through Malacca, and this is important for the traders from east and west, and due to monsoons to transit during this time to make sure that the trades still continue between east and west. And I'm not going to lecture about historical presentation this afternoon, but enough said that at the 16th century, the people have acknowledged the importance of our locations as important location for trades, right? And this is what is currently happening. I'm trying to bring one of the important aspect of these straits, to be specific, the Malacca Straits, where the oil transit through our straits. And it has been acknowledged as one of the choke points where it can bring unfavorable situation to certain or specific countries or certain powers. It can affect the survival of certain countries if these routes being interrupted. So based on historical fact, based on current usage of our straits and our geostrategic locations, it already makes a fact that Malaysia is a maritime nation, and due to the facts of these maritime and trade activities, our country is an important location. And I would like to bring the figures. I have the numbers here. So we are sharing 6 maritime boundaries with Brunei, with Philippines, with Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore. And this is enough said that we share more maritime boundaries compared to land borders. I believe it is quite straightforward, where the land borders we only share with Thailand, with Brunei and Indonesia compared to maritimes. And our sea is much larger than the land mass. And almost more than 81,000 is transiting Malacca Straits for trades. Okay, and 95% trades happen via sea compared to air, even compared to land. So we have almost 14 major seaports. It's already figures, the facts and numbers shows that the Malaysia is a maritime nation due to these facts and figures. And in the maritime sectors, the maritime activities itself comprise the 23% of our gross domestic products, okay, as a year of 2020. And I believe the figures and numbers have shown how it contributes to our GDPs. It comprises not only oil and gas, but include the maritime tourism, the fisheries, the aquacultures, and also the shipping and port industries. However, for the maritime activities, it also comes with costs, where when there is opportunity, there is challenges, where the people always take opportunity of these luxuries of maritime activities into their own needs. So we are not strange with the issues of IUU, where we lost almost 6 billion yearly. For the vessel hijacking, I believe in previous years, there was a case our vessel had been hijacked. Okay, it cost that much. And we also not strange with issues of sea robbery. I would like to stress here, it's a sea robbery, not piracy, because piracy happened at high seas. Sea robbery means somehow you stole money or petty cash from the ships or any small ships at anchor or near to the ports. That considered sea robbery. Okay, there are treated to the case. And transborder crimes and also illegal immigrants. That's what we face today, illegal immigrants coming from surrounding us. That's where the open things, some initiative taken by the National Task Force to make sure that the illegal immigrants is not continuous happen even during the pandemic. It costs us lives and death of the people of this country. There's also include the transborder crimes, because people somehow take easy way out to smuggle things outside from this country and also coming to this country. And also some kidnapping cases, okay, happening. All right, so we cannot run away this with regard to this great power politics. Okay, we have to be realistic. We are not alone in this region. We are not alone in this world. There always people come with interest. Somehow people says there is no permanent friends, only permanent interest. Okay, so this is no strange thing, because other than the survival of power between great powers, okay, there will be a proxy, there will be activities, there will be some intentions that maybe it is going to affect or threat to us, that we must understand how to maneuver between this great power politics. So I believe this is no strange to big powers for us. This is what happening today. And it may happen directly between two countries. It may happen by proxy. It may happen in a different form. During Cold War, okay, the last happened in 80s. So that's the last big power conventional war happened between two major powers, okay, Russian and America. But now it happened in different forms. It may or may not be, okay, in relations to this great power politics, but somehow it's what's today. And we are focusing on regional maritime concern, which is close to us. I've said about the maritime boundaries. We also experience overlapping issues with regards to maritime boundaries between nations. So as our policy, we try to solve this problem through negotiation process. We are not looking at military might or military as a thing to solve issues here, because our policy says so. However, in order to bring people to the table for the discussion and negotiation, we need some credibility to make sure that discussion can be prolonged, discussion can be bring to the tables. Okay. All right. So this is what we call the non-traditional security threats. Okay. We still experience these things as what I mentioned previously, and this is non-traditional security threats is happening. It may look similar to what I have mentioned previously. So other than conventional threat, traditional threat, this is what we also facing at sea on maritime in conjunction with maritime activities. And enough said that in the maritime, Malaysia as maritime countries, due to the historical locations, the geostrategic locations, the geostrategic environment that we face today play an important part to make sure we can maintain the stability of our country as a maritime nation, with concerns about all these three main areas, which is the great power politics, the regional maritime concern, and non-regional security threats. All right, so I believe I completed the first phase or the first part of the topics with regards to Malaysia as a maritime nations, and I will jump to the next topics about Malaysia as a maritime strategy as a way ahead for maritime Malaysian armed forces. So I wrote about this, okay, in 2018 about the choices that the Malaysian armed forces have to look into realizing Malaysia as a maritime nation, that the maritime strategy as a fundamental strategy, not only for the Navy. I'm not saying this because I'm from the Navy, but also for us, for Malaysian armed forces to look into, because there we fight jointly in a domain where in maritime there is air, there is a surface, there is a littoral areas where we have to fight jointly as an armed forces. All right. So in developing the strategies, we need a policy, we need a main reference. So the Ministry of Defense have come up with Defense White Paper. I would like to stress here that the Defense White Paper is not belong to the Ministry of Defense. The Defense White Paper being made by the Ministry of Defense, but it is actually defining the government stand on national defense. It can be used by other ministry, it can be used by other agencies to make sure that we are working together. We have a reference which is transparent for everyone to look into to achieve a common aim and objective. This is new to us, but this is not new to other developed nations. I've met some friends from Australia. He said the leader of the Defense White Paper writing team. So before the Defense White Paper being published, they have seek consultation from respective neighboring countries to make sure that they are aware of what the Australian is doing. However, what makes interesting with the recent deal of Australian, UK, and the US about the procurement of or helping the Australian to to procure the submarines, nuclear submarine is not there. It's just a sudden announcement that makes countries surrounding the regions in shock. So that's where they're being seen inconsistent. So that will be a different discussion today, but I would like to stress that the Defence White Paper not only works internally, but also works externally in terms of to show what's actually the Malaysian stance on certain issues. So it's good development for us, even though we are a bit late, not too late, but a bit early on this. However, we need to develop from somewhere to use a Defence White Paper to be transparent on procuring equipment, on procuring a future equipment, to be transparent with the publics, to be transparent with everybody that even the next maybe 10, 15 years, this is the equipment we try to procure. So there is no hanky-panky, there is no hidden agenda that we are going to procure this equipment in order for us to have the capability, in order for us to make our defense, national defense firm. So for example, the other ministries can use this Defence White Paper, let's say, to develop the facilities for emergencies, aircraft landing spots, for maybe a shelter for the public. So it can be used as other ministry to use this as a reference in order to support the national defense, right? And in the Royal Malaysian Navy, as most or some of us have heard about the 15-5 transformation program. It is RMN strategy currently. It is being established, it is being developed, it is being made good, it is being fine-tuned from time to time. It's not there stagnant. It's being revised from time to time to make sure that we can achieve this long-term strategy in order to make from the 15 class to 5 class to achieve a respective requirement. So the RMN strategy have to cascade what the Defence White Paper wants. The strategy that developed by the Navy cannot stand by itself. It needs something as a main reference to be referred to and needs something to be cascade. So it must be concurrent, it must be consistent. So for the National Defence Strategy, so we developed Defence White Paper to achieve concentric deterrence. As what I mentioned earlier, we need capability to make sure we're able to deter the possible adversaries. If not, we just stop without any influence towards the adversaries. And comprehensive defense, either internally or externally, and credible partnership. That's what we did during the bilateral or multilateral interaction with other navies or other armies or other armed forces. So same goes to the RMN strategies. So we need the reference to make sure that our acquisitions of the equipment that to sustain our capability is there, for us to collaborate with other agencies internally or externally. And this is also one of the instruments of defense diplomacy. That's what we are doing now. Other than we train for ourselves, we also train with other navies to make sure that the diplomacy, the understanding stay intact. Again, so we have talked about the maritime strategy. So what is maritime strategy? So let me define what strategy is all about. The strategy in a straightforward term is a long-term goal. So as a human, as an organization, we need strategy. We need strategy to achieve something. It's a means, ways, and ends to achieve some things. So I believe this is quite straightforward. And before I go further on strategy, I would like to bring the attention of the audience this afternoon on the theory of on war by the Carl von Clausewitz. I adore this theory because it's relevant and it makes sense on what is happening today. So some of you may have seen this, the Trinity of War. This is what we call the theory of Trinity of War. When we are developing a strategy, the grand strategy, there will be 3 entities that need to be there to determine either we are going to war or we are going to remain status quo, are we going to escalate, or this is a transition, something towards war. So in these slides, I would like to bring the attention on the entity of government, the armed forces, and the people. So Klaus von Clausewitz is a Prussian general. He died before even he published his book. His wife is publishing his book. So he's being known, being acknowledged by most of the military practitioners and the military historians that the war is a continuation of politics by other means. That's what the popular word of wisdom by him. But what is all about? In this theory, in order for us to go to war, we need to kindle the passion that kindle war, okay, must be innate or naturally by the peoples. We have advanced weapon. The advanced weapon cannot cause harm unless it being activated by the human, initiated by the human, okay, started by the human. Okay, we have the government. The governments may use some political reason to go to war. So what happened in this world? So let's go to the Vietnam War. So some people say American lose in Vietnam War. Some people say actually the government pull out the armed forces because there is no support from the people. So that's why the armed forces have been pulled out from Vietnam, being taken out from Vietnam. So it is not because they lose the war, but the government have no support from the people to make sure that the armed forces remain there to deliver what the governments want or what the people wants. Actually, it must be from the people to support the government in order for the armed forces to be delivered to certain location. Same goes to us. If the government wants to go to war today, it needs the support from the people. That's why some conspiracy theory saying that the government create this and that situation in order to gain the support for the people to legalize the government to deliver the armed forces as instruments to achieve certain political objective. So this is what is all about to make sense what is happening around us. So we cannot run away from this, and that's why the theory is still relevant until today. And the same theory, that's what make difference between the conventional war and irregular warfare. So conventional war between country A and country B. So it's clear conventional war between two countries. But what happened today in irregular warfare, there is hardly between country A and country B. There will be country A illegally support some guerrilla or some terrorists to bring effect to country B. So the country A stayed in denial. So that's what happened today. So that's what we call irregular warfare. Again, the terrorist is not going to affect on military, but it's going to focus on the population, on the people. So if we relate the theory on war, the conventional warfare and irregular warfare, that's how the things make sense today. Okay, so not easy for certain countries to go to war because it costs money, it costs effort, it costs the total defense of the countries. That's why some people use the means of terror to disrupt the peace or the stability of certain countries in order to create fear for the population and not to bring support to the government. That's what the other countries is doing today. And in discuss about the maritime strategy is cascading what the grand strategy is, what the policymaker, what the political master wants for us to do. It being cascaded from the strategic, operational, and tacticals. That's what the men on board ships, on grounds, the boots on ground, and the fighters in the air is doing to deliver the firepower, to deliver the capability on grounds based on the decision made by the higher authority. And in developing strategy, in developing the means, so this is, I try to bring the tools that may have not been used by some of us. This PASTEL is quite popular analysis tools for us to bring a balanced analysis on what's kind of strategy to be developed. It must have consideration about political situation. It also may have some effect on environmentals. It may have to consider technological advantages. So the social or the domestic demography, it must have some impact on economy. And lastly, it also may have cost on legal issues. So this is the tools that I try to bring to the table. And again, what is maritime strategy? In maritime strategy, this is a modern maritime strategy, says that it involves air, sea, and land. That's why I bring the maritime strategy for the attention of nation armed forces as our way ahead, because the nature of our country is a maritime nations. So it's even focusedly on jointly to influence. The Navy haven't got the fighter aircraft. The Air Force do have. So we have to fight jointly at sea. So I'm covering the surface. So my friends from the Air Force have to be dominating the air. Okay. So in the modern maritime strategy, okay, in the blue water maritime strategy, we cannot run away with these two terms, the sea denial and sea control. I will elaborate more on sea denial and sea control in my following slides. This is where the maritime strategy is. I believe I have spoken about this and ways and means in the strategy. So in the strategy, we need objective, we need course of actions, we need means or instruments to achieve, to support the strategy. And if we talk about maritime strategy, even in any academic discussion, we cannot run away with these three things. The key element of maritime strategy. The key element of maritime strategy, we always talk about sea denial, sea control, and power projections, right? So the first, the sea denials, looks into the definition carefully, okay? In sea denials, it defined as the condition that exists when adversaries is denied. Adversary is denied for their own purpose for a period of time. This is what we call sea denial. We deny the adversary to conduct any activities for their own benefit, for their own purpose at specific time. However, it's quite interesting when you talk about sea control, it is about us where we have a freedom of action to use that area for our own purpose for a period of time. It's quite interesting. So this is what I have been told to my officers, that don't worry so much about these jargons. When we read into this line by line carefully, it actually brings a similar meaning, but how we put the context, okay? So if you want to talk about sea denial, make sure you understand what we mean by sea denial. When you talk about sea control, it means that it is for us to use that area for our purpose for a certain period of time. So don't misunderstand or don't confuse with these two terms of sea control and sea denial. All right, the last one is the power projections. Okay, so power projection, as what is mentioned from the word itself, okay, through sea control, we have the capability to project our capability to shape and influence, okay, and control, okay, the strategic means. So when we acquire aircraft carrier, okay, when certain countries acquire aircraft carrier, when certain countries acquire landing platform dock, when certain countries acquire amphibious capability, when certain countries acquire strategic launch ballistic missile, when certain countries acquire tactical launch ballistic missile, when certain countries acquire submarines, nuclear submarines, it means something. It means something in the way that they try to project their power to the area that they want. So it may affect some stability towards certain regions. So that's what we call power projections. And back to the normal roles and in peace and wartime, this is what the Navy is doing. Other than the maritime strategy, inside the maritime strategy, this is what we doing day by day. Other than doing the military activities, we also assist the maritime agencies on constabulary duties, and we cannot run away with the diplomatic effort with other countries. We may be required to assist other countries, other nations to maintain presence for their diplomatic purposes. This is the triangle of what the Navy is doing in the peace and wartime. Okay, and what the censors have said that how good our strategy is. Okay, if there is no tactics, if there is no plan, there is no way and means to achieve the strategy that we have devised. Okay, there will be useless. So there we need a strategy and tactics, okay, to achieve victory. Okay, the tactic without strategy, so it will be a defeat. So we just stop, but without any clear aims what we want to achieve. Right. So we come to the last part of topics that I'll try to bring this afternoon, which is the raise, train, and sustain. So it's more about us. What happened previously, what happened in the previous two topics is all about external, it's about regional, it's all about global. Now we talk about us, how we Navy adapt to raise, train, and sustain to make sure that we maintain credible and to sustain our day-to-day operations. So in the 15 to 5, I've mentioned this in the previous slide where I have mentioned about the 15 to 5 as a strategy where we cascade the defense white paper for us to have the ability to acquire the capability to sustain, to make sure that we're able to deliver what the government wants, to make sure we're able to execute what the task given to us. So this is the present fleet that we have. So we have comprised many ships. So on the right side of the slides, it shows that this is what we desire to be in the future. So some ships already in place, some ships already being acquired, some ships already being built. So hopefully it become a long-term effort for us to maintain consistency, okay, to be consistent to achieve what we want today. Okay, lucky we have the 15 to 5 as our reference. Hopefully by the future leaders and and our successors will maintain what we desire to be in years to come. And also we have also force multipliers to adapt with the changing environment. Okay, we have to acquire UAS. Yes, that's the recent asset that we have. Okay, so make sure that we adapt with the changing technologies to make sure that we acquire this so the forces able to deliver what it needs on ground. And this is four main core in the 15 to 5 development program. First, we have to look into the fleet readiness. The Navy exists because of the fleet. The Navy exists because of the fleet. I always remind my staff when we are doing planning, there's always three words in my head: logistics, logistics, logistics. Logistics is not only brings stuff on board ships, bring foods, bring rations, brings waters and everything, bring fuel. This is for us to make sure that what we did day to day, even when we plan ops, when we plan everything that we have in a day to day, we also need to consider the logistic as a vital entity to make sure we can sustain. So logistic is an order for us to sustain. Historically, some countries lose war because they negate the importance of logistics. The Germans failed in the fights against Russians in the previous war because they cut loose the logistics. The Japan perimeters, they lose against the American because the perimeters, the logistic perimeters being breached in the Pacific Wars. The Atlantic Wars, okay, between the Allied countries and the Germans, where they transit the Atlantic, few ships have been sunk by the U-boats and disrupt the logistic support towards the Allied force in fight to liberate the Europes. So enough said that war is all about, it's about logistics. Okay. So second, about fleet development, yes. So interestingly, we acquire new LMS from China and also co-developed by our local contractors. So from China, LMS, and also we have acquired fast petrol boats from our local industries. So it's an interesting development. I'm looking forward for these things to develop continuously. We are also in the process to develop our own combat systems. Okay, advanced Malaysian combat systems, AMOCs. So now in the trial on board one of our Navy ships by the local contractors. Interesting. And again, the joiners, we cannot run away with the Army and then Air Force. We cannot instill the feel of tribalism between the Army, Navy, Air Force. We have to think, we have to work as one force. Okay, we cannot championing against each other. We have to work as a friend to have the deliver the capability as Malaysian Armed Forces. And the last but not least, as my favorite topic is a human capital. The Navy have to maintain the raise, train, and sustain to make sure that the men able to undertake the challenges and to administer all the topic that we have discussed to make sure we remain relevant and consistent. And I believe to most academians, the AD concept is nothing strange. Okay, in the RMN, we are having the competency-based training assessment. It's a similar competency-based training assessment that what we have in here and also from other navies or other countries, even in Australia, even in other navies. So it's the same. Okay, in the armed forces, okay, in the Navy itself, this is what being embarked in the competency-based training assessment. The Navy is an enterprise. The Navy is an enterprise. Why? Because we recruit our own people, we train our own people to work for us, not for other agencies. So it should be competent, it should be tailored to our requirement. But the question is how we adapt with the changing environments, how we adapt with the requirement, the need of more data analysts in the Navy. We hunger for data, but we never acknowledge that we need data analysts more in the Navy to help us to make a better decision. We need more software engineers, not only weapon electrical engineers. We need weapon electrical engineers which have a knowledge in software engineers, because in the years to come, even in recent procurement of the modern engines or system, it being controlled by software. So the question is either we are ready to develop the syllabus, the studies to make sure that what being trained to our people can adapt with the changing technologies out there in order for us to sustain. So yes, of course, as what I mentioned previously, is based on competency-based training. It's all about attitude, skill, and knowledge. So I believe to the academician and the lecturers out there or the reservists is nothing strange. But again, yes, we need knowledge, we need skill, but the attitude is the vital part. The value, okay, the value of the peoples, how he or she see the organization, the countries, okay, how he or she work within his or her means, in absence of or insufficient of certain equipments, how he is willing or how she is willing to work within his or her means. I'd like to bring attention to some of you. I would like to share my personal experience. I've worked in human resource in 2016, but I've spoken to Captain Ismail and Captain Hisham. Both of them at that time was strategic comms and one from the IT branch. I asked them, sir, I want to create the Navy apps. The Navy apps that we have today, created by my office. I acquired that software, the template from the open sources, where we created the Navy apps. So I bought it for 1,000 ringgit. So why? Because my passion for us, for my organization, to have even an apps to make sure public understand what the Navy is all about, even for the Navy people to understand, even seen what our uniform is look like. It's not only for the Navy people, but also for the stakeholders and also for the reservists to see the Navy close to them. And in acknowledging into that requirement, I asked them personally, so can we have the apps for me to make sure that the public understand what's more about Navy. So I would like to bring your attention also into the analogy that I bring to them even in the recent workshop. How we can recruit more people, how we can recruit more high flyers or high achievers people in the Navy. Some people said we need a bigger salary, we need higher salary. So it is not only about salary, it's all about the credibility of the organization itself. I give an example. Let's say today we have non-officers or other ranks giving you a news in 2 minutes, but she or she deliver this news in English, in YouTube, in a public broadcast, in a social media. How the public looks into us. Some people will look that, wow, there's a Navy guy giving a news in English, so it's good. So it looks professional. Yes. So that's the credibility that we try to project towards the public. So make sure that the professionalism, the credibility of organization being acknowledged by the public. So internally, as an organization, how will be the officer looks if there is other ranks giving English news, okay, in news, in on air. So how will be the officer score looks into this? They will say that, the other ranks can speak English better than me, so I should improve my English. All right. So among other ranks, what will they think if they saw that other ranks can give the newscast in English, okay? Because they understand that that's one of us. They can speak English. So I think I can do as good as her or him, and I think possibly I can achieve what he or she has achieved. So indirectly, we inculcate everybody to be better, to do better. So this is what I always look into, that everybody in the organization have the possibility to make the organization better within their own means. Okay, we don't have to be great to start, but we have to start to be great. So lastly, the key takeaways that I'd like to bring to the discussion this afternoon was generally, I would like to simplify that. First, I believe I have explained the historical part, the facts and figures that the Malaysia as a maritime nation, we must accept that. Okay, not because I'm a Navy guy, I'm bringing a thought that Malaysia as a maritime nation, it has been acknowledged by all people in this country. So why? Due to the historical and the fact and figures. And as a maritime nation, we are being influenced by the maritime security, by the global strategic environment externally. So it may have some effect on us internally. And for the maritime strategy, for the Malaysian Armed Forces, again, this is cascade the defense as a whole of government effort, okay, and the Malaysian Armed Forces specifically. And I'll stress the maritime strategy as the way ahead for us to adopt, even from the Army and the Air Force, okay, even though they have the air power, land power, okay, theory. Again, maritime strategy is a way forward for us as a maritime nation. And I would like also to stress that the RMS strategy that we have in place now is robust and adaptive, but it needs to be considered either we address the fast-paced changing environment that we have externally. And last part of the discussion this afternoon is for the 15 to 5 as a strategy, as a fundamental for us to refer, for us to raise, train and sustain, not only platform, we are platform-centric, but the human is a critical part in the transformation program to make sure that other than adopting the technology and the capability, okay, which have to be in parallel, we need the human capital also to be developed, okay, to make sure that we are able to drive and to develop our organization in order to adhere to the changing environment. Last but not least, this is what I will mention, okay, in every academic discussion or even a webinar, okay, there is nothing wrong to learn something, because this is what the philosophy that I have in my mind. There will be every day will be learn, unlearn and relearn, because again, as a military man, as a military guy, I always mention to my officers, when you stop learning, you stop leading. So there is no full stop of learning. Every day we learn something. If it's not because of what is happening on board ship, it's all because our men, is our people, our equipment. So there will be always a new learning process every day. And last but not least, I'm often the floor for discussion. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Captain Muhammad Fairuz, for your sharing. Okay, and I hope all of us, okay, enjoy with this amazing sharing. Okay, for me, this is something new. Okay, with the defense white paper. Okay, about the transformation program. Okay, 15 to 5. Okay, so as a civilians, okay, I think this is new for me. And you also have introduced the theory by the Calvin Clausewitz, okay, that you admire with the theory. Okay. And okay, let's we look on the question. Okay. So we go for the first question. Okay, the first question from the Siti Akbal Saleh. Okay, Assalamualaikum Tuan. I'm curious. One of the slides show that maritime crime includes a cyber security threat. Okay, could you please elaborate on how maritime can threaten and inflict the cyber security?
Okay, so I have to address that the cyber security is not only happening towards the Navy and the Army and the Air Force. Is as a government as a whole, is a nation as a whole. The cyber, I always use the terms that the world is virtual, but the threat is real. Cybersecurity, the world is virtual, but the threat is real. Why? Because even though it's happened on cybersecurity domain, for example, it may affect the maritime security in terms of dollar and cents, in terms of equipment, in terms of management system. For example, so if your ports is managing the system using the internet, electronic systems, and being connected with other agency and authorities, if there is disruptions with the systems, at what happened in the airports, okay, in our airports, it has disrupted the airport for certain hours. So it brings the operations down for many hours in order for it to rectify. Same goes to our ports. And in the future procurement of equipment, we are all connected with internet. So either the nets can be maintained secure or not. That depends on how good our firewall is or how good our cyber security is. On board ships, I can just send emails from my counterpart ashore. Those days, 20, 40 years ago, there is no facilities like this. Okay, those days we receive signals via radios. Now we receive signals, we receive information via satellites. So everything's that connected to the internet, okay, are fragile. Okay, have always the chance for anybody to breach. So that's how it makes sense the cybersecurity and the maritime activities and also the navies at seas. Okay, so that's interesting question. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can extend the question. So how the Navy, okay, so how the Navy counter with this threatened by the cybersecurity?
Okay,
in the operation, is it?
Yeah, it's a cost operation. The sensitive information. If you look into the news, I can't remember, I can't recall, maybe last year, the CNA, the Singapore news agency, they make a public saying that they have acquired some sensitive requirement from the Royal Malaysian Navy. They make it public. So what's the intention for? So if you look into the scenario, why must they make it public? To show they are credible or to show that they have certain intentions? So that's kind of example that may not affect us. If there is a false, if there is bogus, if there is any false claim, we knew that. So for what purpose? You cannot wake up in the morning saying that I'm acquired the Republic Singapore Navy sensitive document. Is it proof? Is it bollocks? Is it correct? Is it wrong? So if you look if I come to the TV3 tonight, I'm saying that we make a statement, okay, the Malaysian Armed Forces have acquired some Republic Singapore Navy sensitive document. So what's the intention for? There must be a strategy for that. We cannot just come with the bluff to say that that you have something. If you remember the story about the boy and the village where he made a false claim that his lamb had been eaten by the wolf. Okay, so after 3 times he make a bluff, so his villagers never trust him at all. So same goes to this cyber security. There must be some credible moment for us to claim that we acquire something. So I would like to bring another attention from on cybersecurity or even media. I'm more interested on media actually. Okay, how we can use media to influence enemy activities on ground. So right now we are doing the op-benting. So we are patrolling the borders of the Indonesian and Malaysia. Okay, strangely, there is none of the Indonesian Navy in present near to the border. There is a lot of fishing vessels. Okay, what if today I make a media play telling the whole world that there is no TNI AL or any Indonesian navies in present of their borders? It shows that either they're interested or not to patrol the borders. So it can bring influence to the domestic perception of Indonesian people towards their armed forces. So this is all about media play. So this is something that we have to address and we have to optimize. So it's not only bring the ship to the sea, it's not only bring the plane to the air or the enemy or the boots on ground, but how we can capitalize media play in our information operation. There is something that we need to look into. There is something that we have to need to add on in our transformation program to acquire the right people, right talent, right equipment to make sure media play is also part of the arms in the Malaysian Armed Forces. We do have CDOC, the Cyber Defense Operation Center in the Malaysian Armed Forces to fight the cyber defense. We fight. None of us knew how much cyber threat they have overcome. None of us knew. Okay, none of us knew how we survive day by day. There is thousands of threats they've been overcome by them. They not just make it public. See, so in our domain, it's not, we cannot only see our own domain as a navy, but in the near future, there is a bigger domain that we have need to consider. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Okay, the next question. Okay, the current pandemic was jeopardized the government budgeting in military development, and I think also in other industry, Okay, so how do you foresee this challenge going to reflect the military operations? How the transformations plan going to materialize in future? I think this is a 2 question or 1 question here.
That is a complex question.
Because maybe you can share about the military budget, okay, with these
Okay.
current situations.
Okay. First of all, let me be straightforward. As a military, we have to remain apolitical. Okay, this is for the fact. We have to support government of the day because the government being supported by the people. Okay, my statement, it may sound personal, but again, this is what being taught to me. The military officers, the military guy, you have to remain apolitical because not because of your favor, but you have to support the government of the day because they're being selected by the people. Again, back to the Trinity, the government, military, and the people. Okay, the theory. So what the government is doing now, the government is addressing the pandemic. It's not only government. Okay, our government, the whole government in the world is addressing the pandemic. Okay, they have to strike the balance between either to develop or to build the more hospitals or to acquire more ships. This is what I faced during the discussion with Minister of Finance under the EPU, the Economic Planning Unit, when we try to acquire new equipment, even though some maintenance and everything, we have to prioritize. We may have the best healthcare system in the world, but how we strike the balance between how many ships that we can acquire to make sure that we can afford this and how long we can wait for this. So we cannot have the both world. Okay, we have to be fair to the people. We have to be fair to the government. We need more schools. So should we compromise acquiring the landing platform dock today? for the next 5 years? Look into the submarines. Submarine have been a dream for the Navy, not yesterday, not last 5 years, many, many years, even in early 70s. But we only acquired that in early 2000s. So because there is money to be concerned, this is something that people have to understand. Okay, the leadership, the government is doing their best to make sure that it is benefited everybody. Okay, yes, I know it's a challenge for us for military operation to make sure that we can carry out our duties effectively, but this is how we have to work within our means, okay, to sustain to the budget given to us, the GDPs and everything. So to acquire more advanced equipment, we have to make sense what is our budgets, okay, and what will be how it's going to affect us in the next 10-15 years. The RMK or the Rancangan Malaysia, okay. So this is 5-year plan that basis on 5 years plan. That's why we table our requirement. Okay, that's why some of the aircraft, some of the fighters, some of the ships can only be acquired as early as 2030, 2035, because it's a 5 years projections. It's not as easy that you want that asset tomorrow, it can be buy by the government, because there is a lot of things to be considered, especially now. Okay, we have to make our priorities right. The survival of the countries, the healthcare of the people, the stabilities of our healthcare systems compared to maybe acquiring 1 or 2 ships. Okay, so we are not actually jeopardizing the defense. No, we have to make sense. As a statesman, this is what we think. As a matured people, should be our consideration. So I would love to see the military men who have the matured thinking like this. Okay, we are not thinking about ourselves. Yes, that's what we need for us, but I believe the government is doing their best, okay, to acquire what's the best for both worlds. Okay.
Okay, the next question, okay, from the Zafran, So the previous question also from the Zafran, okay, how the transformation plan going to materialize in future? I think this one on the transformation program 15 to 5.
Yeah. So I believe the 15 to 5 is ongoing, and the recent naming of LMS Bade and the third LMS is already coming. So I believe the Navy has made a progress, okay, yeah, but I believe we have to address some challenges with regards to the littoral combat ships, okay. So I believe this is the discussion of the day. I don't like to elaborate more on this, because so for the littoral combat ship, there is a lot to be discussed between the shipbuilders and the government of the day. Okay, we should have it now, but there is some issues there. So the plan is there. The execution part is troublesome. Okay. However, LMS is coming, and we're looking into acquire more LMS. Okay. So that's the highlight of today. So the 15 to 5 remain relevant, and I believe the Navy is on the right track for it. Somehow there will be a challenges in between. That's what the breaking the wave is all about. Okay, all right.
Okay, because we still have the time. Okay, so can we proceed to the question? The next question, okay. So the next question from Muhammad Fadil Muhammad. So Muhammad Fadil, we have 2 questions. Okay, we stop for a while. Okay, so we continue with the question. Okay, we have a lot of questions today. Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you for the participant. Okay. Okay. I continue on the question from Muhammad Fadil. Okay. This is a long question. I have. Okay. How do you reckon TLDM should equip themselves with the advancement of technology, political instability within the region, different type of threat, and especially the slow and tough economic situations, to continue keeping the ship afloat for effective operations and continue breaking the wave to ensure the security of Malaysian maritime corridors are keep intact?
Okay, there's a first part of the question. I think how do the RMN reckon to equip it ourselves? So I believe the 15 to 5 is there as a plan. So as a desired capability, okay, for us to have in the transformation plan. There is a time, there is an easy time, there is a tough time for us to get what we want. Okay, there should be a plan to substitute. So as an alternative, if we can't acquire certain specific capabilities, but again, to make sure that we can carry out our day-to-day operations. Okay. So right now, there is a ships out there to patrol the operation areas. Okay. This is the routines. This is what we did day by day. We need ships out there. Again, so our duty is to make sure that ships to be repaired, ship can operate, be operational, ship can sustain. So in the operation area, same goes when the ships being tasked for specific requirements. We are not there only for operation. Somehow we're being tasked for example, the exercise between nations, between two nations, between three nations. Lastly, which I did during the PACE exercise with the Australians, with the Indian Navy, okay, with the Royal Navy. The next month with the 5 countries FPDA, the UK, the Australia, the New Zealand, and the Singapore. So we need platforms. Actually, we need platform to address the requirement. But again, as what you already answered in your question is, there is a tough time for us to acquire more platform. Again, so we have to juggle between this. Okay, the government allocate money for us to acquire new platform today. Who can think of that the COVID-19 pandemic happened early last year? Last year, in the month of March, my ships just recently passed Busan, Korea, escorting the PLFNG2 from Busan. After 48 hours we sailed Busan, the Korean declared emergency due to COVID. And what happened this year or last year is totally a different game. Okay, so government needs to focus on saving the life of the other people, other countries. So we don't know what is going to happen in the next 5 years. We have a good plan today. If we have a strategy today, there will be external issues, okay, influencing the strategy and planning. But how we stay intact with the given tracks, with the given progress, or how we continuously breaking the waves, like what I mentioned, to make sure that the acquisition, either it is on time, behind time, or ahead of time. So this is something that we have to think of. So definitely, to make sure that all our maritime securities corridor effective, we have to adapt the technology that we have today. We may have our sensors, our radars, even our friends from the Royal Malaysian Air Force to patrol, to patrol the areas. So not only surface, not only ships, they also look into the aircraft and defense. I'm talking as a Malaysian Armed Forces in general. We cannot have a mindset only think about the surface and maritime, because the MPA is operated by the Royal Malaysian Air Force. They have more rich area compared to us ships. They are actually queuing us to certain area and location. That's much more effective. Okay. For example, today they patrol, they found there is a illegal, possible illegal immigrant. That's what we faced in the real situation last year, where when we impede Rohingyans coming to Langkawis, it is from the Air Force give us information. So we being queued to the position and locations. So we are there, we impede them, chasing them away outside from our waters. So that's how we work. So we have to work within our means and embark other people capabilities to make sure that we deliver that requires capability to make sure the ship is safe and secure for all. I think that's answer the question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, next question from Fadil. So, in your honest opinion, how can the Naval Reserve Unit can participate actively and effectively involved in the demanding TLDM system through consistent and continuous training and operation as the supposed second line of defense to the country, especially with the new maritime and the naval defenses approach. So this is the responsibility for the PSSTLDM, the reserve unit. Okay, how they can play their roles.
Okay, first, this is my honest opinion, and I have been consistent about this in the discussion with my seniors and with senior officers and my counterpart. Let me be sincere about this. I remain consistent. This is not to address this question. First, as a Navy, we cannot live with only these three branch: the supply, logistics, the seamen, and the technician. I believe most of you understand we live with these three branch. The seamen, the executive, the technicals, and also the supply core. For us to go forward to develop, we have to think of the box. How to incorporate the reserve unit. I ask these three branches, if we are today to address the requirement for us to have more data analysts, is it better for us to acquire that talent from the reservists or to retrain or to recruit from these three branch? Which one is better? In my opinion, it's better to require the talent from our reservists, because you have more fields and more variety of skills that you can offer out there in order to help the Navy, the gaps that we have in the existing branches to assist in data development or data analysis. And the next thing, if we want the more role to be given to naval reservists, what the Navy has given to them, when you demand, make sure you ask yourself what you have provided. If you can provide them with the training as good as the man, the frontliner, then you can demand from them. But if the numbers of training, if the exposure is only good for them to become the support elements, then we should acquire or we should demand them to play their part as a support element. For example, the data analysts, For example, the software engineers. For example, the media or information ops, planners. because you came from someone who have the background of software engineers, media, human resource, and so many things. I envy because you have the luxury of that knowledge, where we should work each other instead of breaking each other. We should complementing each other as a naval forces, where we should acknowledge that the reservist is actually doing as important thing as us, okay? But they are actually expert on their own field, where this is the gap that we need to fill. We have to acknowledge this weakness. Not saying that the naval reservist, you are only good at second line. And it's not, there's no such thing of second line. Okay? If you want them to become our ship drivers, give them at par training as our ship drivers today. If the ship drivers need a year training, so put our reservists a year training. So either they can bring the ships safely from point A to point B, and as good as our ship drivers. So that's the questions. So again, this is mutual understanding. So either we fill the gap. So if we want the reservists to become our frontliner, so give them equal opportunity and chances. So this is where we have to discuss each other. We shouldn't fight each other. If in the American Naval Reserve, Rebel Reserve, or the American National Guard, the reservists can fly the aircraft. Why? Because they have the competency, they have the time, the hours for them to achieve, to fly the aircraft, to fly the fighters. Same goes to us. I believe in the futures to come, if we have more platform, we can offer one or two reservists to achieve certain hours to become a competent officer of the watch or ship drivers. It is not impossible. Okay, it is no rocket science. It's just matter of training and competency. You just imagine if the officers that graduated from National Defence University after 4 years training, they still needs more training at sea for them to be exposed and to be trained to become a good ship drivers or officer of the watch. How you can wait that the naval reservists to fit into this job? Okay, so there is something that we have to address. So you may have started as a support elements. So I believe this is the ambition of everyone. So you want to become the frontliner, yes. But what the Navy has provided you, is it enough? Is it sufficient? Is it can help you to carry out your task effectively? That should be the question mark, not just a requirement. Okay, when you provide, you can demand. That should be the trade-off that the Navy should give to you. Okay, unless there is the gap that we need to address for some unique expertise and equipment, some areas that we need to optimize. Okay, first. Okay, right. Thank you.
Okay, so we proceed with the question. Okay, how the Navy mitigate this issue with regard to the human capital development, that one of the pillar, okay, in the RMN 15-5.
Sorry again, the question is?
How the Navy mitigate this issue, okay, with regard to the human capital development, okay, one of the pillar in the RMN 15-5.
Okay, this is interesting. Okay, because human capital, I always stress that human capital development is not only the job for human resource department. It's not only the job for Naval Education and Training Command. It is not the job of only the ship to train. It is the job of everyone. Okay, when you acquire certain equipment or certain platform, you must consider the amount of training, the amount of syllabus, the amount of hours, and how that affect the training process as a whole. We cannot just open our eyes and, okay, tomorrow we want to acquire the nuclear submarine. No, it luxuries. It needs more specific trainings. Either our present training elements or training flow able for us to support that requirement. So it is the holistic approach, the ecosystem as a whole. I presented the approach on class management. Okay, I was one of the team leader or the project leader of class management devised by the Naval Education and Training Command. So when we develop the class management concept, it is not only the pillars of the Naval Education and Training itself. It's not only for HR or only policy department to talk about this. I have talked to engineers. I have to talk to the operational guys. I have to talk to the procurement office. I have to talk even to the HR office to make sure that everyone in the same page. Okay, so we are not going to acquire different equipment because it's going to be a nightmare for the trainers, for the Naval Education and Training Command to make sure that the knowledge being preserved and to be sustained in the organization. If not, there will be a brain drain. It will be an inconsistent process in the training. So that's actually the human capital development that we need to be consistent from the beginning to make sure that the man is competent to operate the equipment due to the syllabus, the training given to them is actually matched to the equipment being procured, even not today, in the years to come. We are prepared for that, not inconsistently acquire, then train. So it must also consistent with the transformation program. If let's say that in the 2030 we want to acquire MRSS or multi-role support ships, so we have to ask ourselves, how has we prepared the schools, the equipment, the training walk-up, the other necessary requirement? Has we prepared for that? So that's the question to be answered by the Navy itself before we are so eager to acquire the equipment. Okay, in order for us to able to fulfill the training cycle to make sure our man is competent. Okay.
Okay, shall we go to the next question? Okay, back to the cybersecurity, because we are in the development of the technology. Of course, there will be different on the defense strategy, okay? On the before days and for the nowadays, okay? So this one is about how do you balance between cybersecurity and privacy of civilians?
Waalaikumsalam. First of all, I would like to stress that I'm not cybersecurity expert, but anyway, I try to give my sincere opinion on cybersecurity versus privacy of civilians. I believe this is no strange issues. I believe if we look into the issues that happening around us, I always look into developed countries into this. The Americans, the UKs, the Australian, they are developed peoples. They are very concerned about the privacy issues, where somehow these cyber securities, okay, the intentions of the certain companies of using some private data for their own gain. Okay, some even sell this information to certain parties. So our information being used as a commodity, okay, which is not right. So some organization, they have their own values to respect the privacies. So I believe it's matter of a profit making or respect the privacy of your customers. So in the cybersecurity, we cannot run away because we use our smartphone in our hands. Okay, I believe 10 over 10 people is using smartphone, not 9 over 10 people. I believe that's the reality that we have today. So it's only back on us how we keep our information. Either want to disclose everything, or either you want to be wise. Even though in Facebook it asks you what's in your mind. So if you think that things is good in your mind, stay in your mind. So don't put it on Facebook. Okay. So if not, people will have different perception on you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Captain Fairuz. Doesn't matter, it's about the opinions. Okay, there
No
is
worries.
no right or the wrong answer because we are in the sharing session.
Sure.
So we appreciate any of the opinions. Okay. The previous question was from Dr. Susilawani. Okay, so we go to the next question. Okay, this one is on our current issue. Is about fighting with the COVID. Okay, how we prepare the nation in combating unseen enemy like COVID. Okay, if like a zombie doesn't matter. Okay, we can see, and we see the zombie, so we can run. Okay, this one, okay, unseen. Okay, the unseen enemy. Okay, so maybe you can give the opinions, or maybe you can respond on this question.
Okay, thank you very much. This is my personal opinion. So I'm not a public health expert, but I believe this is something challenging. So the unseen enemy like COVID, yes, we don't know our luck today or tomorrow. We just avoid this from happen to us. So we are prone to this. Okay, even though we have took two jabs. Okay, in order to minimize or mitigate the risk, okay, of being affected by the COVID-19. So I believe this is more challenging to combat the unseen enemy like COVID. Yes, this is number one enemy today. Anyway, there are still problems surrounding us, not only COVID. Okay, so how we prepare as a nation? Lucky we have our present healthcare systems. Lucky we have our own identity card systems. Lucky we have our own registrar systems, which is being connected to each other. So somehow that's the best we have today, and we improve tomorrow. Okay. Yes, the present government is doing their very best to mitigate and manage the problem. Okay. So neighboring country next to us, to the south, is experiencing 800, 900 cases, okay, per day. Either you realize this or not. So I'm observing it in my personal Twitter, okay, in my personal social media. Okay, I'm subscribing to the official announcement. Starting from 5, 7, 10, 20, 30 cases in a day in Singapore is now 900, 800 cases. Did anybody realize that? So either we look much into us, or we realize or make sense each other. With that numbers or figures in ratio of 5 million people in Singapore, I'm not distracting the discussion to other countries, but try to make sense. Even their government is doing their very best, okay, to save their people, okay, and our country is doing the same. Yes, with the limitations of geographical locations, outreach, people live in the island, deep in the forest, okay, and not being easy to reach by the normal transportation. Yes, there is some loopholes in terms of the apps, the software, but I believe with the ratio that we have today, the numbers of the adults being given 2 doses at least, I think we are on the right track. So bear with it. And yes, the casualties happen every day. The people die, the risk people die, and we are not also safe from that. We are not sure that where will be our times turns up. Okay, so the country is doing their very best, I believe so. So now either some parties okay, in the countries is using this as a political means to achieve certain objective. Okay, so I believe the matured and adult people, you can see this, and yes, it's not easy. Okay, you have to become pragmatic somehow rather than become populist. So that's the leaders of the countries is doing now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so maybe one of what you have shared before this is about the attitudes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we must have a good attitude. Okay.
Yeah.
Together to fight with this unseen enemy. Okay. Okay. I think this is the last question from Hazmin. Okay. In view of the current AUKUS trilateral pact, which is currently making wave in the ASEAN region, how should the RMN and the Malaysian government respond to this by defending the agreement of foundation among the ASEAN countries? Okay.
Okay, so with regards to these questions, if what should RMN and the Malaysian government respond? I believe the RMN have to oblige how the government stands or the Malaysian government stands toward this. If we listen into the recent announcement by our Prime Ministers that yes, we acknowledge that procuring the nuclear submarine may initiate or may spark the arm race, okay, in the region, okay, but again, we still go for some exercise, some planned bilateral or multilateral relationships that we already have with these countries. Okay, so we have to be careful on this. Okay? I believe the counterparts, especially the Australia, which is close to ASEAN, are facing their hard time on this. Okay, they're trying their very best to make sure that the surrounding countries is ease on this, but it's not as easy as that. Okay, the Indonesian is jumping. Okay, but Malaysia, we cannot compare ourselves with Indonesia. You just imagine that the recent announcement being made, okay, that Australian is procuring the nuclear subs. Okay, but next month we are going to have exercise with them and with the UK. So far, the government stand is yes, we acknowledge that issue, but what being discussed and planned has to proceed because this is what being planned for. It can be tomorrow if the Minister of Defense thinks that okay, we should be more stern on this, we cancel the exercise. So that's the government call. So we oblige what the government stand on this. But anyway, let's be more professional on giving this opinion with regards to AUKUS. Okay. First, we must understand why suddenly the Australian scrap the deal between the Australian and France in acquiring the diesel electric submarine Barracuda. It's a 12 submarine. 12 submarine is a billion deals. They are actually acquiring from the French. Okay, so it was scrapped by the announcement that okay, we will scrap the deal. We are going to have the nuclear subs, okay, as what being provided by the UK and the US. Okay, so it put even Australia in a bit difficult position. Okay, in some area, because I been with them in the Australian Command and Staff Force, they are struggling actually to make sure they're being acknowledged as an alliance, as a good alliance in these regions, okay, by the Americans. Even somehow they question ourselves, are they a good alliance or are they a good ally? Should we equip ourselves to make sure that we can operate with American in any time? So there's still a question mark, a discussion between their own academician and their own maritime practitioners, okay, among them. Some of them supporting the ideas of acquiring the submarine, some of them not. As what I mentioned previously, it already being mentioned in the defense white paper, their own defense white paper. They never mentioned about acquiring the nuclear submarine. No, that announcement make them inconsistent for once. So it's quiet. That's what makes the announcement interesting. And so is it American and UK is so desperate to make that announcement to threaten the China in South China Sea? Because if you compare the operational range between the diesel submarine and the nuclear submarines can stay under sea longer than the diesel sub. So it is more lethal, it is more strategic asset to overcome China in South China Sea. Even go to the east side South China Sea. So is that announcement, is it just announcement or they are really acquiring that capabilities? So on the other half, on the other side, the French feel pissed off. Why? They also want to be acknowledged as another bigger power. So the American make a deal with Australia and also the UK, but sidelining the French. So how do you feel? So let us be realistic. Okay, this is the game, the big games between big powers. Okay, So as what I mentioned in my earlier slide, that there is a big powers, the society, the strap between the rising powers and the existing powers. Okay. People try to become a new Roman every day. So I believe we as a country in the nation, we have to be wise in putting our stance, that the stand had been addressed, but again, okay, we have to be realistic to be adapting to this current environment. Okay, if we have problem with China in South China Sea, do we cut deals with China? No. Economic, defense, we still procure LMS from China. At the same time, we have problem with South China Sea. So again, so this is the game that in the bigger picture, we are looking into this, that we have to be very careful on navigating this. In 2014, my friend from Philippines, they are totally against China. But what happened today? They make deal with China to make sure that even though they have problem with Scarborough Shoal, they have with problem with West Philippine Sea, they still need investment from China. Even though Australians have problem with China, they still need investment from China. Even though at the same time, American is actually using them to project their firepower towards China. So interesting, right? So the pastel analysis that I mentioned in my slide. So now it makes sense to your question, okay, this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Captain Fairuz. Okay, so just a reminder to the participant about our attendant link and also the certificate link. Okay, so you can get from the chat box. Okay, so please make sure you fill out both of the link. Okay, because there is a separate. The first one is on the attendance and the second one is on the certificate. Okay, so by responding the last question, okay, that I think that is the end of our sharing today. Okay, so thank you very much, Captain Muhammad Fairuz bin Hassan. I hope all of us enjoy, okay, with this sharing and also the response from the question. Okay, and there is a great sharing. Okay, so it was a pleasure to have you with us. Okay, Captain Fairuz. Okay, so before we end, okay, we want to keep this memory by taking a photo. So please, everyone, please activate your video buttons. Okay, for the photography sessions. Okay. Okay, we wait for a while. Okay, waiting for the others to activate the video buttons. Okay. Okay, ready everyone? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this conclude the webinar on behalf of the organizer and our speaker. Okay, so thank you for your patience and also your participations for today. We hope you have learned and enjoy this sharing and have a great rest of your day. Okay, thank you everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Captain Fairuz.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Komandan Nizam Benedetto, Lieutenant Komandan Nizam daripada SPC.
See?
InsyaAllah nanti UiTM kita tunggu. We are supposed to be signing MOU dengan TLDM on joint research yang banyak benda lagi.
That's good.
Tapi sekarang ni benda tu masih lagi tertangguh dekat TLDM tu. We are still waiting for it.
Okay.
Dulu patut dah siap, ready to be signed. Lepas tu apa ni? Dia minta nak amend sikit lagi. Dah lama dah balik. Tapi nanti I follow up dengan Komandan Halim on that.
Yeah, that is something that the red tapes that you have to face lah. We need more young blood to run the show. Make it
Dah ada berdua dah ready dah. Tapi I think there was one panglima want to add something. Tapi dah